Hey class, Mr. Loza here. So what I'm going to talk about today is actually how to work on your Elements of Art Zine. And by now you should have already been able to practice folding your 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper into your own mini zine, which should look something like this. And so the next thing we're actually going to do is write the title of our zine in the front, called the Elements of Art. You're also going to have your period number and your name on the front cover. And as we flip through on the inside, each page should have its own header. And you can find that information in the slide deck attached to the assignment. So we have line, shape, value, texture, space, form, and color. And right beneath every page at the very bottom, we're going to have the definition. And that information can be found in the slide deck as well. So I'm just going to have you write down the header and the definition for each element of art. The next step is actually be doing the drawing for each one of our elements. And so I'm going to go by these step by step. I'm going to start off with the first two elements, which are line and shape. So meet me over at my drawing table and I'll show you how I work on mine. Thanks. Bye. Hey class, so we're here at my desk and I have my supplies in front of me. I have my, excuse me, I have a pen, I have a pencil, I have my Elements of Art Zine. It should be blank, but yours should also have the header for each one and the definition written down at the bottom. And what I have here is actually an example of one that I already worked on and actually want to show you how it looks like. I'll actually post this up on the Canvas homepage under our Elements of Art Zine assignment, so you can actually check it out and use it as a form of inspiration. So the first things we're going to work on are actually going to be the cover and our first two elements, which are line and shape. So for the cover, I actually want you to do whatever you want, as long as you use one of the 7 elements, which you most likely will. What I ended up using was a little bit of the elements in my cover. I used some line. I also used some organic shapes. I use space. I use value and form. And so you don't have to use every one, but you can actually just create something really nifty. And you can actually use your inspiration board to help you figure out what you're going to do. So your cover, I'm going to leave that up to you. And you can actually work on this in the beginning. You can always come back to it and work on it a little bit later. You can add color to it as well. So I want you to make your cover pretty interesting because it's going to be your own Elements of Art Zine. So I'm actually going to jump over to our first one that we're going to work on. So I'm going to focus on line. And what I want my line page to have is at minimum of 3 examples of different type of line. So right here, I have some expressive line around the actual header, the title of my page. I wanted to use expressive line because I wanted the actual word to pop. So I use these like diagonal, jagged lines to express that. I also have some diagonal lines just beneath it. I have some curved lines as well. And I actually decided to include a little character of mine, a little jaguar, and actually panther. That's what it is, a panther. And I also included some cross-hatching in the background. So I'll show you how to do that in a bit. So what I'm going to do is actually put this to the side. And you can check that out on the Canvas homepage. I'll put it up there for the assignment. And so I have my blank one. And remember, what I want you to do is actually work on something that's unique for your cover of your Elements of Art Zine. And so I'm going to jump over to my line one. And what I'm going to do is actually take my pencil. And what I want to start off with is actually using light pressure. That way, if I make a mistake, I can always go back and erase what I made. And remember, we're using our sketching techniques that we actually use for our daily warm-ups. And so what I want to do is sketch lightly, light pressure. It's okay if I make mistakes because I can always go back and erase. And since I'm going to be using my example to create my new one, I can actually look at it and use it as a reference. So what I want to do is actually start off by drawing a circle in the center. And I'll do this very lightly and very loosely. And remember, if any part of this video gets a little bit slow, you can always pause it and fast forward to see how the final outcome looks like. So what I'm going to do is actually just sketch very lightly all the elements of my character, my Jordan Panther. And what I'm doing is just like sketching in the eyes lightly. And remember, I want this mainly to be focused on line. So I don't really want to worry about shading or darkening in things too much, because we want to show examples of line in this drawing. So I'm just going to do the whiskers, and it's okay if things aren't perfect. I could always come back and fix it. And I'm actually going to show examples of line right here by shading using this little cross-hatching technique. And you can watch me do it, and you can try it yourself as well. So cool, I'm happy with that. And now I'm actually going to add some background elements. And I'm going to use this cross-hatching technique where I use a combination of vertical lines, probably use 4, and then I come in right next to it with a series of horizontal lines. And I can keep this going until I create a pattern. And this technique works really well to actually fill in background space, draw in with some detail, and try to make things look a little bit interesting. So this is one technique you can actually use in your zine as well. And I'm going to jump over to including some diagonal lines. And so the reason I'm doing all these is mainly as an example of different types of line that you can use in your zine. So remember, all I want you to do is use a minimum of 3 line examples. So you can use expressive line, you can use vertical lines, you can use horizontal lines, you can use descriptive lines to actually draw out a character. And the lines I'm using right here are very thin, and so that would count as well. You can actually include very thick lines as well, and I'll include one right now with this leaf because my panther's in the jungle. So I'm going to include a leaf right here, and I'm going to make this line a little bit thicker. Until that's already a different type of line. And you can include squiggly lines, curved lines, and I'm actually going to include some squiggly lines right here, some curved lines as well. And when you're repeating any type of line, you actually turn out to be creating some patterns in your zine. So these are techniques you can actually use and come back to. And think of your zine as a small library, a reference guide for yourself later on. And the cool thing about this zine is that you can actually make copies of it when you're done and give it as a gift to another friend, or actually help somebody out when they want to learn about the elements of art. And so I'm going to include some more leaves right here. And you'll notice that I am drawing very lightly because I could always come back and darken up all of my lines with heavier pressure using my pencil. Or if you want to, you can actually use a pen to go over your line work. You do not have to do that. That is totally optional, but some people do like the boldness that the pen brings. So I'm actually going to include some more lines back here. I'm going to include some dynamic lines that look very jagged. And you notice that it is different compared to my original one, and that's okay because I like to mix things up and make things look a little bit different each time. All right, so that would count for my line segment of my zine. So I can actually go back and actually outline it with a pen, and I have one right here. Any type of pen works really well, and I'm only going to outline just part of it just to show you how that works. And so outlining with a pen can get a little bit tricky because it is permanent, but your zine would be a great place to practice. And remember, The way you made the zine once, you can always make it again. And so you can actually start off making a practice zine to help you figure out what you want to do, how you want to organize your pages, or you can just go for it with one. And so your requirements for this page are going to be to include just 3 different types of line for this page. And so I'm not going to go ahead and outline the whole thing because I'm actually going to move on to the next element, which is going to be shape. And so I'll just finish up right here. And I'll use this as a starting point. And I'll finish up this a little bit later. And I'll just give them one eyeball so we can see what we're doing next. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Here is what a finished version would look like, just so you get an idea. All right, so the next one is going to be shape. So I actually want you to show just 2 types of shapes. And shapes are 2-dimensional enclosed areas, and shapes can actually be organic or geometric. And by organic, what that means is shapes that are normally irregular, natural. So you can think of a leaf, you can think of something squiggly, gooey type of shape, that would count. And opposed to that would be geometric shapes. Geometric shapes would be squares, circles, rectangles, triangles, anything like that. So for this page, all you're going to do is provide at minimum just 2 examples. So 1 geometric and 1 organic. And it could be as simple as drawing 1 square. And let's say, I like using leaves because they are from nature. And so I'm just going to draw a big leaf right here. This would actually be a really good opportunity for you to look around your home, look outside, and see what type of leaves you have, because that would count for your organic shape. And you could look at the outlines of something, and this counts. You don't have to add too much detail, but a little bit of detail is okay. I'm asking for just 1 of each. But knowing you, you're probably going to add a couple more, and that's okay. Because remember, this is going to be our reference guide that we're going to be using throughout the semester. So when Mr. Loza asks you, hey, what type of shape is this? You can look to your book, to your zine, and actually like refer to it and like, oh, this is a geometric shape, or this is a organic shape. And another organic shape can be something abstract, something that doesn't look like anything. So it can be just some kind of gooey looking weird thing. And I'm just gonna put a circle in it just because I can. And so there we go. I have 2 organic shapes, and I'm just gonna write it down right here so I don't forget. Organic, and on the top I'm gonna write down geometric. All right, so that does it for this portion. And for right now, all I want you to do is worry about line and shape. I want you to take your time. I want you to add some detail. I want you to be proud of the work you're doing. Remember, you don't have to follow exactly my template. Use this as inspiration for the work you're doing in the class. But I actually want you to, look around your house, see what you have, see what you can share and make different. I want you to actually be able to show me your zine, and I love it when people share with me their zine and show like the innovative and unique aspects to their art. So, all right, class, this is your prompt for today, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.